The world was captivated when Buckingham Palace announced the engagement of Prince Charles to Lady Diana Spencer on February 24, 1981. Just 5 months later, they married, and more people tuned in to watch their royal wedding than the moon landing. Deb, first to you, why do you think people were so enchanted with Lady Diana?
It was a real-life fairy tale, and here was this beautiful young 20-year-old woman who worked in a kindergarten about to marry the future King of England. I mean, quite extraordinary. And everybody had been waiting for many, many years as to who Charles might choose as his bride. You know, there'd been speculation about so many women, and finally, this was the one.
Juliet, that takes us straight to you. Why do you think Diana was different to the other women that Charles had dated?
Actually, I don't think she was that different.
Oh.
You know, Charles was the most eligible bachelor at the time. He had been the most eligible bachelor in Europe for more than a decade. And he dated a lot of society it girls. He dated a lot of aristocrats. And, you know, Diana pretty much fell into that category. You know, way back in 1967, we saw him with Lucia Santa Cruz. She was the daughter of the former Chilean ambassador to London, an aristocrat who went to Swiss finishing school, as did Princess Diana, of course. He also dated Princess Diana's older sister. So, you know, he was very much in that area. And then Diana. Of course, he dated Camilla Shand early on as well. But, you know, Diana really fitted into, I think, that society, aristocratic, blue blood world. She was younger, of course.
Yes.
And, you know, they fell in love.
Can I just say one thing that she might have been different, and what was quite different here is that she was also a virgin. Yeah. And the future king had to marry a virgin at that time. So I don't know the other girls' histories, but I think it's probably worth just adding that that may have been a point of difference in why she was so young.
Which is also a tad horrific, but we'll move on. So, Mark, the media seemed to fall in love with her straight away. How do you think she handled the attention at the beginning?
I think at the beginning she was slightly overwhelmed. She would have been slightly prepared for what she was about to get involved in, but I don't think anything could have prepared her for this avalanche of media interest. In part, I think, because we're talking about the early 80s. I think the British press pack had come through a pretty dour time in the 70s. And here was this light bulb moment, this blonde that really shone. And it was everything. I remember talking to the photographers and the cinematographers that used to come out here and cover the royal tours, and they actually was like they had fallen in love with her. They adored her.
She had that it factor.
And initially she was shy. She struggled a bit with the attention, but she certainly grew into that later on.
Absolutely. Well, the couple was interviewed for their engagement, and it was a comment from Prince Charles that was said to have left Diana traumatised. Let's have a listen.
I asked Diana before she went to Australia, 2 or 3 days before, because I thought it'd be a good idea that, apart from anything else, if she went to Australia, she could then think about it. And if she didn't like the idea, she could say she didn't. Or if she did, she could say that. But in fact, you actually said...
Yes, quite promptly. Well, it wasn't a difficult decision in the end. That's what I wanted. That's what I want.
And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
Yes.
Well, you can put your own interpretation.
Obviously means two very happy people.
As you can see.
Well, from us, congratulations.
My heart broke when I heard that. But, Juliet, you think that was a bit of a harsh criticism of Charles?
Yeah, I do, you know. A lot has been made of that same statement, you know, whatever love means. But I think we saw there, Charles, he was very shy. He was being asked very personal questions. He wasn't used to having to answer those sorts of personal questions about love, about relationships, about his new, you know, wife-to-be. And I think he was... genuinely just trying to answer with honesty, but he was also trying to be a bit funny and light-hearted, as he often is in public situations, and everyone suddenly captured on that, and it's been played endlessly.
Do you
over
think
the
we're
years.
looking back with hindsight now and saying, oh, he didn't actually love her?
Yeah, I think we are, and I think that's deeply unfair. Deeply unfair.
Deb, what do you think?
I actually agree with Juliet. I think that he was it was very difficult for him to express his emotions to the press. We know that he's never been a big fan of the press. I think for her, she was probably traumatised because she had this incredible sort of love for Charles and the whole fantasy for her. It was said that she had always been in love with him since she was a young girl and first met him at her home. So that was probably quite shocking because she probably had a very romanticised idea of love, and that was not the answer that she wanted to hear. And remember, again, her age, she's very young and very inexperienced, and he obviously didn't have the enthusiasm that she expected.
Well, their wedding was the biggest the royal family had seen for decades. It really was like a fairy tale coming to life, wasn't it, Deb?
It certainly was. I mean, their lead up to that wedding, and I agree with what Mark said earlier, you know, England was really looking for some happy news, and this provided that, and the royal family got right behind it. And of course we had television, we had 1 billion people tuned in to watch and listen to that wedding, and her dress, everybody, the anticipation around what she was going to wear. But again, it was all this fairy tale, this magic, this beautiful young girl. And I think the world really, it's not just the English, but the world wanted some good and happy news.
Well, Diana famously mixed up her groom's name during their vows. Let's take a look.
I, Diana Francis,
I, Diana Francis,
take thee, Charles Philip Arthur George,
take thee, Philip Charles Arthur George,
to my wedded husband,
to my wedded husband,
to have and to hold,
to have and to hold,
from this day forward,
this day forward,
for better, for worse,
for better, for worse,
for richer, for poorer,
for richer, for poorer,
in sickness and in health,
in sickness and in health,
to love and to cherish,
to love and to cherish,
till death us do part.
till death us do part.
Oh, Mark, there must have been enormous pressure to get everything exactly right. There were so many people watching. Do you think with 1 billion people watching, there were a lot of people who may not have had an interest in the royals before, who all of a sudden were tuning in?
I think you're dead right. I remember I was in Hobart, living in Hobart at the time, and I was staying in an apartment block of about 12 apartments.
Yeah.
And I remember coming home from work, and I forget what time it was, but every apartment, every one of them were watching the wedding and getting ready, having a little mini wedding party.
Fantastic.
Everybody was excited, and everyone was, you know, I was in my early 20s then, and they're similar ages.
Yeah.
And what had appealed to it, it hadn't been since the early 50s had we had a wedding like this, when the Queen was married. And this was really the first time the cameras had been allowed in, and for a new generation to experience all this high formality and hearing it all, the bands, the music, the dresses, the red carpets, and it really was such an event. And as you say, even if you weren't into the royals, if you were a Republican, it was still an amazing thing to witness.
Absolutely.
I think it was interesting too that they gave it as a public holiday. That was, I think, that really kind of was a testament to the interest on that particular time.
I mean, I was in England and it was amazing. We had the day off.
Yeah.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, I'm sure. And of course it was held at St Paul's, not Westminster Abbey, because there were so many guests in order to take all the guests.
Yeah.
So not only are you watching the wedding, but you're watching all of these other princesses from various other countries, various dignitaries, celebrities and so on, all attending that wedding as well, which is equally fascinating.
Absolutely.
I think you can tell, listening to her voice there, just how nervous she is.
Yeah.
You can imagine the moment. She must have been absolutely mortified.
Absolutely. Now, but Juliet, let's talk about the dress. Iconic. How much say would she have had in how it was designed or how it looked?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, really?
It was 100% Diana, yes. I mean, she chose the designers.
She chose those sleeves.
You know, I remember... I remember in the lead up to it, everyone in the media was trying to find out who was making the dress, you know. And I know that David and Elizabeth Emmanuel, the couple who made that dress, had to keep it in a safe in their office. Wow. They were so worried about details, leaking out any details at all. And the dress itself was extraordinary. It was this big fairy tale thing, wasn't it? It was straight out of Disney Princess.
Yeah, it really was.
It had 10,000 pearls on it that were hand sewn into it, and that incredibly long train that followed her. I mean, it really did take your breath away.
What makes Diana's dress and Diana have so much appeal all these years later, Mark?
I think everybody feels that they've been part of a journey with Diana. And in fact, when you look at that old footage of her with Charles and then the wedding, there is a sense of sadness because we followed that journey all the way to 1997. We felt the divorce, we felt what it was like afterwards, and of course her death. And that's why her story is unlike any we've seen in so many years.
Well, thank you to our experts, Mark, Juliet and Deb. And for more royal news, visit 9honey.com.au.